Welcome today to our 2021 Martin Luther King Jr. service. My name is Chaplain Tim Harrison. Brent Reeves and I who have co-hosted this for a number of years. Brent, of course, is the Director of Diversity and Inclusion and the International Student Services Director. And so we're glad to be able to do this today. It's unfortunate that we are not able to be joined by the rest of you in person, but I hope you cheer really loud wherever you are, and I hope you celebrate with all the recipients as you can. We know that Dr. King's example of servant leadership and his tireless effort to promote justice and hope are so important, not only to this community, but also to the world at large. His inspiration is what we base the awards that are given today on. We're grateful for the many in this community who have offered us role models of what it means to be a part of the beloved community, and we celebrate this. We also want to thank our selection committee who helped choose from a wonderful pool of nominations, and we had a number of them. And also just a thanks to the Social Justice and Equity Committee, who throughout the year provides many opportunities of leadership on issues of justice for our campus. So I invite you as we begin today to pray with me. God of justice and mercy, we give thanks for your presence in our lives. Lord, we ask that you teach us to love our neighbor, to have compassion for those who may be different from us, so that we truly understand what it is to love. We ask that you give us strength to empower the voiceless, to enable the marginalized to feel that they are valued and truly make a difference. Give us a caring heart for those that suffer, for those who are oppressed, so that we may choose to lend a hand of comfort and healing. We thank you especially this day for those in our lives here at McKendree University who have offered their light to us and to the world. Bless them, O God, and all of us as we seek to be faithful servants. Amen. This school year, of course, has been an unusual year, and so it's natural that we have an unusual award ceremony, if you will. So we're grateful for the Social Justice and Equity Committee, as I said, and they will be presenting a special award this year. And so I'm going to ask our new provost, Tammy Eggleston, if she will come and help us with this award.
Thank you so much, Tim, and thank you to the SJAC committee for allowing me to have this opportunity to thank Chris Barr. Some leaders are quiet and strong, and you really don't appreciate them enough until they're no longer with us. And that's certainly the way I feel about Chris Barr every single day in Third Floor Wilde. Chris Barr retired from McKendree University after serving as provost for 12 and a half years. But based on how many hours that Chris Barr actually worked, it's probably more like 25 years that she supported McKendree University, and she is already greatly missed. Chris Barr is a humble, caring, responsible servant leader. She always did what was best for McKendree and the students we serve. She leads by example and always puts others' interests ahead of her own. During her tenure at McKendree, she developed and organized countless academic activities. Let me just highlight a few. She started academic retreats. She improved onboarding for faculty. She launched the Academic Excellence Celebration. She worked closely with Student Affairs to create the Student Success and Advising Center. She successfully guided McKendree University through 2 HLC higher learning visits. She has been an advocate for faculty hires, including diverse hires, and has hired over half of the current faculty. She has been an active member of the SJAC committee for many years. She has attended and participated in the life of the campus, including brown bags and many HET speakers. Chris Barr, in sum, has been a responsible, kind, dedicated, fair, and simply the most hardworking provost that we could have ever asked for the last decade. She is the epitome of a servant leader. Dr. Martin Luther King said, and I quote, "Everybody can be great because anybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and verb agree to serve. You only need a heart full of grace, a soul generated by love. Well, Chris Barr does have a college degree, and she can edit, and she can make sure that that subject and verb agree. But more importantly, she has a heart full of grace and a soul generated by love. We are indeed blessed that Chris Barr committed over a decade of service to McKendree, to our students, to our faculty, to our staff. And I wish her time for joy and rest that is well deserved during her retirement. We thank her for her service, we thank her for her commitment, but most of all, we thank her for her heart full of grace. Thank you, Chris Barr. Please join us on the stage.
Thank you so much, Tammy, for those kind words. I'm really delighted to be recognized with this special award, although it doesn't feel quite right to be recognized for doing something that I truly believe in and enjoy. I'm grateful to have had an opportunity to serve on the Social Justice and Equity Committee and to participate in many of the social justice and equity activities held on this campus. I've always believed that the best way to eradicate racism across the globe is to start locally. And that is for people of different races and cultures to form one-to-one personal relationships with each other. When two people listen to each other and share their stories and learn from each other and share friendship, those friendships can grow to include small groups and large groups and churches and businesses and neighborhoods and eventually whole communities. This past year, I've been kind of intrigued by the maps that we see of the coronavirus spreading across the country. It started out as a white map and it had just a few tiny pink dots showing where there was an outbreak. And in a matter of weeks, those tiny dots expanded into pink blobs. And then the blobs started connecting to each other to form big pink patches across whole regions of the country. And as the virus intensified, the patches turned to red, and soon the whole map was covered in red. Well, what if instead of representing the virus, those tiny pink dots represented multiracial and multicultural friendships? Wouldn't that be amazing? Like, think about how those friendships could spread and what that could do for our country. So that's why I believe so strongly in the work of the Social Justice and Equity Committee. The committee is committed to helping members of this community break down barriers by getting to know each other and sharing our stories, forming friendships one at a time. The connection groups that SJEC sponsored several years ago, and now the conversations that they've been doing for the past few years, have provided many opportunities to spark dialogue and friendship among individuals with vastly different perspectives and experiences. So for me, it was just a joy to serve on the SJEC and help promote that very important effort. And for that reason, I feel privileged and grateful to have been a part of it. So thank you for celebrating the work of the Social Justice and Equity Committee. Thank you.
So for a number of years, McKendree has recognized persons who've demonstrated humanitarian qualities and a philosophy of nonviolent social change, such as those demonstrated by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The criterion for selection of this award includes increased understanding and tolerance for all people, embraced humanitarian principles and ideals, displayed initiative through major participation or leadership in programs or service which reflect these ideals, including racial harmony, social economic empowerment, religious understanding, social justice, and generosity and hospitality, reflecting an attitude of acceptance of differences. As you'll see soon, as we introduce these recipients one by one, each of them were felt by the committee to exhibit some or all of these characteristics at one time or another. I would like to now invite Brent Reeves, who, as I mentioned, is the Director of Diversity and Inclusion and our International Student Services Director, forward. He will be making some remarks following the presentation to each of the recipients. And so we thank him again for his remarks as well. So I invite Brent to come forward.
as Tim had mentioned earlier, he and I have co-sponsored this program over the years. It's considered, in my mind, one of the highlights of my job here at McKendree, to recognize not only students, but faculty, staff, and in some years we recognize community members who have had an affiliation with McKendree in some fashion that designates or rises to the level of being honored through a humanitarian award here at McKendree in the name of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We had a very lively, very strongly competitive field this year. Sometimes, some years maybe only have one awardee. But this year we had a full slate, and the committee saw such strong nominations that we had to pick 2 students and 2 faculty members this year. So we're very, very happy that that has happened. We wish we could give one to everyone on the campus, but that would kind of diminish the award, So without any further ado, we'd like to ask up our first awardee, Mr. Shelby Ben. I have known Shelby now for at least 3 full solid years. I'm going to probably say 4, but I didn't really know him too well that first year. But shortly thereafter, I got to know him. It was like, man, this guy is unlike any student I've ever met before. He has, I think, the record for being the student government president of 3 years, which is unheard of on any college campus. Usually it's one and done. But this guy likes the pain, he likes the punishment, but he also does the job. He has done some incredible things this last year here. That's why he's been nominated for this humanitarian award, which included just spearheading many initiatives, not just through his duties as SGA president, but just because he wants to improve. He wants to leave a legacy behind when he goes from here. And I'm just also very, very proud to say that he is a member of a fraternity that I'm also a member of, Phi Beta Sigma. And like I say, and all the things that he has done for not only the school, the community, this entire region, the state of Illinois, he had time to pledge a fraternity. So I'm quite happy about that as well. So without any further ado, we'll have President Dalvinus present Shelby. And Shelby, I'm sure you'll have a word or two if you'd like to say thank you. So congratulations.
It's nice hearing people talk good about you, but normally I'm a person that like to stay humble and keep on working because I feel like my work is never done. I want to thank everyone that helped me got to this point today. It wasn't a clear, easy path, but it was necessary. I'm not a me guy. I'm more of a we guy. I'd like to thank everyone that worked with me. I'm not the only person that done all these initiatives. I was just one person that had the guts to talk to other people and communicate and get it all going together. I would like to quote the honorable brother, John Lewis. He said, "Get in good trouble, necessary trouble, and help redeem the soul of America." That term spoke to me when I first read that. I was like, this is it. This is it. Get in good trouble, necessary trouble. I felt like this was necessary trouble. When over the summer, I had the opportunity to talk to multiple people in law enforcement. And it humbled me because I was able to understand the perspective of others and be able to help. And so we both helped each other out in talking about the experiences we have experienced in our lifetimes. And so that made me a better man. Afterwards, I had the ability to work with Gigi and others on helping a rally come here on campus. And I'd like to thank administration for helping us with that and being cooperative. And I don't think we'd ever be up here today if we didn't have that cooperation, because we was able to reach a lot more people than just people at McKendree. We was able to get on shows, podcasts, and stuff like that and be able to share the message. And that's what being in good trouble is right there. I like to thank all my brothers of Phi Beta Sigma Incorporated for teaching me to create good change by culture for service and service for humanity. And I will stand by that motto until the death of me. Lastly, I would like to quote Dr. Martin Luther King: "The time is always right to do what is right." The reason why that quote means a lot to me is because a lot of people don't understand. They think they got to do something big to create change. You don't. It takes one conversation. Take a couple of words sometimes to change somebody's life, and that one person have another conversation with somebody. Then at that point, you starting to spread a good message. It's not about it's about the intentions of what your message is, because you can capture somebody, and that one person can tell your voice and spread it out, and that's how you create good legacy. And so I ask everybody, and I challenge them to get in good trouble, necessary trouble, to help redeem the soul of America. Thank you very much.
Next awardee is Giovanna Hopkins. If you'd like to come up, Giovanni. We call her Gigi for short. So Gigi has quietly led the campus. She hasn't had the form of the SGA president's position, but she's done just about as much as Shelby has. And one thing I can highlight and say, she has served, which is a committee that I now chair. We call it the Penn Committee, or the St. Louis Graduates Committee, in which she serves on a committee that helps the entire educational community across the St. Louis metro area. We look at how we can close the educational gap. How we can help equality through education, through high school, all the way through college graduation. And many people, she doesn't know this, but has been so impressed with all of it. And we do these, since pandemic, this committee has started, we've been on Zoom meetings. Many people have commented to me how, insightful and energetic and enthusiastic she has been. So not only, this is one of those situations where one of our students has gone out and served the entire metro community. So that's really huge. And she's probably helping people that she does not even know. And that's something I think a servant should do, that gives and provides for the entire community. So with that, call on President Dobbins to present Giovanna Hopkins, the MLK Humanitarian Award for Student.
Hi. Being a part of a community where we as individuals can express ourselves and come together as one is essential to this campus. As an African American student who, but for the actions of Dr. King and other countless who marched, sang, sat in, stood up, and even died so people who look like me can even attend McKendree is amazing. And I'm honored to be and humbled to receive this award. I want to extend a thank you to Shelby, because without him, I wouldn't be as involved as I am. Since freshman year, you've challenged and motivated me to become a better person and fight for others. So thank you for that. And thank you to my fellow peers and faculty for choosing me as this year's Martin Luther King humanitarian recipient. Lastly, I will end by sharing a quote from Amanda Gorman that states, "There is always light if we are brave enough to see it, if only we are brave enough to be it." Thanks.
And our next awardee is Dr. Pamela Manning. So if you'd like to come up, it's front and center. Dr. Manning has also been a very, I guess I would say, unique faculty member. Remember when I first met her, she arrived on campus, and I just immediately got the impression as, oh, she's going to be a force to be reckoned with here. Now, when I say unique, a lot of people, a lot of faculty, here, of course, teach undergraduate classes. Pam is in our graduate school. She's graduate education, and she typically teaches night classes. So it is so unique and rare, and I'm not speaking down on any other faculty who might be here, but many of the duties that she has taken on beyond just teaching classes happens during the daytime. and interacting with students. And then I was just mentioning to her earlier, before we started here, of all of her service to the community through her sorority, through her church, which is here in Lebanon, and all of the things she does personally for her students, for other faculty members, staff, and the community is just unchallenged. So I would like to just personally thank her for all of her service. And once again, we'd like to award the MLK Humanitarian Award to Dr. Pam Manning.
When I think of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., I think of him as a spiritual educator. He gave us and taught us our morals. He believed in God, so he made sure that as he walked that walk, he was actually teaching us as an example on the way in which we should live and be for our friends, mankind. So I look at him as a spiritual educator, but also a parent. When he talked about he wanted his children to walk alongside the white kids, anybody, all together, children walking together, I'm in education, and that's what I want. In understanding and in love. And then not even talking about those things, which are great, but he was such a dynamic leader. And he led people to good causes, to good things, and he tried to change people's minds to what is right, what is just. And that is my wish for our nation. I look at him as a gift from God. He was a great example for us to live by. His life was taken because of his belief in equality for all. He wasn't just for African Americans. He was for everybody. He was for us getting along. I don't know how we forgot the other side. He was for all of us. He taught all of us. He was an example for all of us. And for some reason, some of us decide not to recognize that he was for them too. But he was. It is my hope that all races stand together as he believed, for unity, peace, and love. I belong to Delta Sigma Theta sorority, have to say that, because Dr. Martin Luther King was a servant. You're right. You're right. You're right. And he served. And that is what God wants us to do, to serve our fellow man. And that is what I will die trying to do. It is an honor to be recognized. I thank the Martin Luther King Committee, Social Justice and Equity Committee, the person or people who nominated me. I know one now, but I didn't know until just today. And it is such an honor. I want to thank people that I came here, because when I came here to McKendree, not too many people as professors looked like me. So I have to thank Dr. Jackie Kemp for being there to make me feel comfortable. I swear I wasn't going to cry, but it happens because it's sincere. I want to thank you. I want to thank Tammy Eggleston for being here for me during the interviews. It was awesome. I want to thank Chris Barr, Dr. Barr, for being there whenever I had concerns. And she did actually listen. And lastly, two more things. I want to thank you. I want to thank the young ladies in the I want to thank the young ladies called Elite, National Association of Colored Women's Club, group of African American young ladies who are on this campus and doing great work and service as young ladies and as young people. We need them. because those old folks are going to be leaving soon, you know, and we need them to do great work. And I want to thank Shelby also for leading the Black Student Association. His leadership has been seen and shown. He's made his mark. When Dr. Dennis was here, he was always talking about his mark, or the mark, make your mark. That was McKendree's logo, and I do believe they have. But now we have a new president, Dr. Dobbins. And Mr. Dobbins basically has a saying also, and I don't know if it actually came from him or not, but I'm going to tag him with it, and it's One McKendree. It would be wonderful to continue to have this connection that we have at McKendree, where Blacks and whites, and we reach out to the community and we try to be a presence for our community and beyond, not just Lebanon, but beyond St. Louis. We're in programs there and other places. It is wonderful to know that we can make a difference. And I know without a doubt that would make Dr. Martin Luther King proud. I also really want to thank one other recipient, and she was awesome in reaching out. And she knows who I'm talking about. Many times when I had some concerns, she was in tune enough to reach out and say, "Are you okay?" and talk with me. And so for that, I am very, very grateful to Dr. Patterson for that. And thank you very much. And
All right, our final awardee of the afternoon is Dr. Martha Patterson. And Dr. Patterson, like Dr. Manning, has been a force to be reckoned with here at McKendree. Especially, I've come to know her in my role as the diversity director, and there's been, I don't know how many, numerous occasions where she has come and pushed me in doing my job. Brent, why aren't we doing this? Why isn't that this way? This isn't fair, Brent. You need to go ahead and take care of this. And I was like, well, I guess I'll sign up to be her assistant then, because she's in my office quite a bit. But it was all great. It was all a part of her kind benevolence, her love for humanity and the world. And she has exemplified that in everything she has done to infinitum. So with that, once again, I'll have President Dobbins come forward and present the award to Martha Patterson.
So I'm going to ask Dr. Jackie Kemp-Simmons to come up, please, because I would like to give the award that, and I thank the committee so much for recognizing my work, but I would like to honor Dr. Kemp-Simmons. So if she would kindly come up to the stage. The core of my work is, and I'm talking about my scholarship here, is to bring to light the extraordinary and often unsung accomplishments of African-American writers, mentors, and activists. Given my commitment to such recognition, I would like to present the McKendree University Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Humanitarian Award to Jackie Kemp-Simmons, who has devoted her personal and professional life to mentoring young people, and particularly African-American youth. Over her long career, Jackie has developed and implemented psychologically based programs for at-risk Black youth in Belleville, Cahokia, and East St. Louis. These programs work to enhance youth learning and self-esteem, to enhance young people to help them cope with trauma, to reduce teen pregnancy, and to help diffuse conflict. She has been instrumental in the recruitment and retention of African-American students at McKendree, while inspiring many of them to pursue advanced degrees. And she teaches all students the importance of understanding and implementing psychotherapy from diverse perspectives to ensure a more equitable mental health treatment. According to Dr. Kevin Zanilotti, Jackie was the heart and soul of the degree completion program begun in 2010, which offered scholarships to at-risk students in East St. Louis and Cahokia. Jackie and colleagues met every week with students, helping them study with study skills, becoming acclimated to college, and with whatever struggles they encountered. Jackie built a community for these students who still talk about how her work with them profoundly affected their education and lives. Jackie comforted and consoled. She commiserated with their struggles. She also spurred them to ceaseless self-improvement. I just want to read a few testimonials from her past students that I think give a sense of how powerful her impact has been as an educator and mentor. So this is a quote from Sierra Hicks. She taught me how to date, who is currently enrolled in a master's in marriage and family therapy program at North Central University. Dr. Kemp taught me how to dig deeper within myself and elevated my self-esteem. She encouraged me to be the best I could go and go beyond those expectations too. According to Lauren Reeves, she has been a powerful guide my entire life. Venetia Van Zant writes, she has encouraged me to believe in myself and to be proud of my skin color. Andrew Tolbert writes, she was a home away from home and the recharge station when school and life had got you beat. She not only gave me the confidence of being a Black man in America, but she also gave me wisdom as a soulful, loving being that I needed to hear and I still use to this day. Ebony Luster writes, Dr. Kemp is my hero. Shaquille Armstrong, who is enrolled in a Master of Criminal Justice program at Lindenwood, writes, when I think back, my high school teachers and administrators weren't only right when they said that Dr. Kemp would help me get through McKendree, but she has helped me get through life. Brandon Heflin, who has recently completed his PhD in clinical psychology from Palo Alto University, writes, my relationship with Dr. Kemp changed the course and quality of my life. I would not be a licensed clinical psychologist without her boundless care, her unceasing mentorship, and her passion for culturally appropriate psychological science. And finally, and this is perhaps one of the most moving quotes that I received, this was from a woman who was formerly incarcerated in the Rockville Correctional Facility, where Jackie taught and mentored during, I believe it was your, as a doctoral student. No, and, pardon me? No, I was a doctor, but I worked in the system and I had a program for the prison system. All right, so this was after you received your doctorate. And she wrote, you gave us hope, Dr. Kemp. You did not judge, you taught, and you inspired. Rockville was a dark time for me, but so many of us have risen up from that experience and lead happy, productive lives once again. You were a tremendous part of that, Dr. Kemp. And I want to conclude with, I asked Jackie for her life philosophy, and I love this, and I think it's something, kind of a takeaway from what everyone has said today. And she told me, she said, this is her life philosophy. So it is, judge not, lest ye be judged. Let your light shine in dark places. Give love and hope to all. So with that, I would like to present the award given to me to both a dear friend, a mentor, and I have to tell you, just an incredible, incredible gift to McKendree. So Dr. Jackie Kemp-Simmons.
I am very seldom, if ever, speechless. However, I find myself at this moment, my heart is filled because Martha is a force to be reckoned with. That is absolutely true. For such a time as this, for you to do something so selfless, I could have retired from McKendree and been okay because I never need anybody to pat me on my back and to tell me what a good job I've done. I just need my students, Pam, to just go and to do well and for them to be successful. I very seldom, if ever, even gave reports of the stuff that I've done, because how do you want to get an award for what you do, for who you are? I mean, why would you? And Martha had to convince me. This was hard for me. This was hard for me to accept this. And I think she and Brent had to talk to me. Because like I said, I'm okay. My students out there, wherever you are, you have done well, you are doing well, and I am grateful to God that you were in my life, because you added to the quality of my life. But to be in that hall, Carnegie Hall, to spend with those professors, the ones who worked with me on a regular basis, the ones who I saw and who supported me through thick and thin, the love that I know that you have for me, Martha, you and Boudreaux and Zanlotti, that entire group over there, and others on the campus, I cannot tell you how important it is today in times like this for a white woman to make sure that she recognizes a Black woman's struggle, because it's a struggle for those of us. Like Pam said, to come here, I was here 12 consecutive years without seeing another Black face. And the moment you came, it was like the heavens just opened up, because sometimes you just need to turn around every now and then and see yourself, so that you can get through the day. I graduated from McKendree. I have loved every moment, even through the dark times. The light still was there, and I knew that it was there because I trust in God, and I know that I'm going to get through. But it was amazing to me for me to look over and to see my sister. I knew her before she came here. So the love that we have, the friendship was always real. I knew about 10 years before you even came here, and we were just connected. But when Martha and all of the others at one point made me realize that they recognized who I am, it's a good thing when your colleagues give you accolades. I've never, ever had someone to give to me something that was awarded to them. How selfless. That is such a wonderful, wonderful gift. We need that in this country today. And again, I can't tell you how honored I feel. She struggled with me to get me to come, because I normally, like I said, it's not something that I need. I'm okay as long as my students have done well and they are doing well. The letter that she read to you, let me tell you about that, especially the one from the prison. When I got my doctorate degree, I graduated from Indiana State University. I got my doctorate degree and they hired me as an administrator. And one of my jobs was I was able to create a program, an associate degree program. And I set it up, maintained it, put it together to the prisons, to the men prisons. And one of the things that I wanted to do was I thought there are women in prison as well. So why not we carry this educational program to the female campus as well? And Rockville was a dark time for the women, and they were correct. And I had even forgotten that I did that. And the email that Martha read, the young woman, about 2 weeks ago, it was in my queue, and she said to me, "Is this the Dr. J.L. Kemp who taught at the Rockville Correctional Institute?" And I started not to reply, because I'm thinking, is she looking for me? And why would she be looking for me? What is this about? Because that was years ago, back in the middle 90s and stuff. So I'm thinking, what is that about? And I had even forgotten the program, because we have to educate them as well, the men and the women. When they go to prison, we can't forget that they're there. And I was so excited to have done that. And she said to me, she said, "I've been looking for Dr. J.L. Kemp for at least 2 years, and I hope that I have finally found her." And I had forgotten the name of the female prison. And I thought, well, let me tell her what I did. And she wrote me back and said, "You are the one I have been looking for." And that was the letter that I read. And I burst into tears, because when we do things from our heart that we truly mean, it will always be there. It'll come back years later. I had completely forgotten. But I did remember she spoke about, I had them to close their eyes. And I talked with them during one class, and I talked to them about becoming the best self that they could be. And when they opened their eyes, they started to cry. And I had no idea why they were crying. And there was about 10 of them in the room. And what they explained to me was they saw my head was shrouded in a pink light and that it was soft, and they saw it all around, and they knew at that moment, they all saw it. Of course, I couldn't see it. But what they saw in me was that I was trying to give them the most important gift that I could give, and that was love. And I have been loved by McKendree. I have been loved, and I thank you so very much.
It's always easy to, just come up and accept an award and, kind of relish in your own celebrity. But to witness firsthand someone winning an award and then dedicating that award to a colleague, that's, like I said, that's very rare, almost unheard of today. Hopefully those who are watching the stream, will watch the stream, will use this as inspiration for their lives, to not just look at it as me, but how we can share to others as well. We're coming to the point, this completes our awards segment of the program, and I've been given the honor to say a few words about the namesake of this awards program, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and I'll proceed with that. I took a few excerpts from history.com editors and from the A&E television network to put this little talk together, presentation together. I call it Thoughts on MLK. Martin Luther King Jr. was a social activist and Baptist minister who played a key role in the American civil rights movement from the mid-1950s until his assassination in 1968. King sought equality and human rights for African Americans, the economically disadvantaged, and all victims of injustice through peaceful protest. He was the driving force behind the watershed events such as the Montgomery bus boycott and the 1963 March on Washington, which helped bring about such landmark legislation as the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act. King was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1964 and is remembered each year on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, a U.S. federal holiday since 1986. Martin Luther King Jr. was born on January 15th, 1929 in Atlanta, Georgia, the second child of Martin Luther King Sr., a pastor, and Alberta Williams King, a former school teacher. A gifted student, King attended segregated public schools and at the age of 15, I'll say that again, at the age of 15, was admitted to Morehouse College, the alma mater of both his father and maternal grandfather, where he studied medicine and law. Although he had not intended to follow in his father's footsteps by joining the ministry, he changed his mind under the mentorship of Morehouse's president, Dr. Benjamin Mays, an influential theologian and outspoken advocate for racial equality. After graduating in 1948, King entered Crozier Theological Seminary in Pennsylvania, where he earned a Bachelor of Divinity degree. He also won a prestigious fellowship and was elected president of his predominantly white senior class. King then enrolled in a graduate program at Boston University, completing his coursework in 1953 and earning a doctorate in systematic theology 2 years later. While in Boston, he met Coretta Scott, a young singer from Alabama who was studying at the New England Conservatory of Music. The couple wed in 1953 also and settled in Montgomery, Alabama, where King became pastor of the famous Dexter Avenue Baptist Church. The King family had been living in Montgomery for less than a year, then when in the highly segregated city became the epicenter of the burgeoning struggle for civil rights in America, galvanized by the landmark case Brown versus Board of Education decision of 1954. On December 1st, 1955, Rosa Parks, secretary of the local chapter of the NAACP, refused to give up her seat to a white passenger on a Montgomery bus and was subsequently arrested. Activists coordinated a bus boycott that would continue for 381 days, well over a year. The Montgomery bus boycott placed a severe economic strain on the public transit system and the downtown business owners. They chose Martin Luther King Jr. as the protest leader and official spokesperson. By the time the Supreme Court ruled segregated seating on public buses unconstitutional in November of 1956, King, heavily influenced by Mahatma Gandhi and the activist Bayard Rustin, had entered the national spotlight as an inspirational proponent of organized, nonviolent resistance. King had also become a target for white supremacists who firebombed his family home that same January. Emboldened by the success of the Montgomery bus boycott in 1957, he and other civil rights activists, most of them fellow ministers, founded the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, also known as SCLC, a group committed to achieving full equity for African Americans through nonviolent protests. In his role as the SCLC president, Martin Luther King Jr. traveled across the country and around the world, giving lectures on nonviolent protests and civil rights, as well as meeting with religious figures, activists, and political leaders around the world. During a month-long trip to India in 1959, he had the opportunity to meet family members and followers of Gandhi, the man he described in his autobiography as the guiding light of our technique of nonviolent social change. King also authored several books and articles during this time. In 1960, King and his family moved to Atlanta, his native city, where he joined his father as co-pastor of the also famous Ebenezer Baptist Church. This new position did not stop King and his SCLC colleagues from becoming key players in many of the most significant civil rights battles of the 1960s. Their philosophy of nonviolence was put to a particularly severe test during the Birmingham campaigns of 1963, in which activists used a boycott, sit-ins, and marches to protest segregation, unfair hiring practices, and other injustices in one of America's most racially divided cities. Arrested for his involvement on April 12th, King penned the Civil Rights Manifesto, known as the Letter from Birmingham Jail, an eloquent defense of civil disobedience addressed to a group of white clergymen who had criticized his tactics. Later that year, Martin Luther King Jr. worked with a number of civil rights and religious groups to organize the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, a peaceful political rally designed to shed light on the injustices of Black Americans continue to face across the country. Held on August 28th and attended by some 200 to 300,000 participants, the event is widely regarded as a watershed moment in the history of American civil rights movement and factor in the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. The March on Washington culminated in King's most famous address, known as I Have a Dream speech, a spirited call for peace and equality that many consider a masterpiece. Standing on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, a monument to the president who a century earlier had brought down the institution of slavery in the United States, he shared his vision of a future in which the nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. The speech and march cemented King's reputation at home and abroad. Later that year, he was named Man of the Year by Time magazine, and in 1964 became, at the time, the youngest person ever awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. In the spring of 1965, King's elevated profile drew international attention to the violence that erupted between white segregationists and peaceful demonstrators in Selma, Alabama, where the SCLC and the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, also known as SNCC, had organized a voter registration campaign. Captured on TV, the brutal scene outraged many Americans and inspired supporters from across the country to gather in Alabama and take part in the Selma to Montgomery March led by King and supported by President Lyndon Johnson, who sent in federal troops to keep the peace. That August, Congress passed the Voting Rights Act, which guaranteed the right to vote, first awarded by the 15th Amendment to all African Americans. In closing, Dr. Martin Luther King, I'll share with you a quote from somebody you all know. I'll say who it is at the end. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "Everyone can be great because everyone can serve." It's one of his many lessons that endures today. As we've seen throughout this pandemic, from sewing masks to dropping off groceries to their elderly neighbors, Americans across the country know that service, looking out for one another, is part of who we are as a nation. This quote came from President Joseph R. Biden. With that, I'd like to introduce Dr. P.J. Thompson. He will close out our awards ceremony and memory of Dr. Martin Luther King with the spiritual Lift Every Voice and Sing. Lift every voice and sing, till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmony of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. I'd like to thank everyone for being here. I also like to thank President Dobbins for providing services and providing the plaques, and Dr. Eggleston for also providing the award, and all of our awardees. And those of you who are watching on the stream, please use this as motivation for you to go forth and do what these awardees have done and make this place a better place. Go in peace. Have a great afternoon. Thank you all.